Hey guys, Carlos here from Angler's Lifestyle. Now that the trout season has officially started, it's best to have different type of rods in your bag that you carry around to make sure that you're not caught without the right specific rod and reel for the type of trout that you will be fishing for. If the trout that you're fishing for are the smaller Department of Fish and Wildlife, these fish tend to come shallow after a plant, a couple of days of plant, and the only way to catch them is using these cast and retrieve type of technique. So we're talking about light, ultralight type of rods and light lines and lures. The right thing to do is have these equipment, the right rod and reel in your bag. So anyway, I realized the other day that I saw in the schedule that the Department of Fish and Wildlife are going to start planting as well, the smaller fish. So I checked my bag and I realized I didn't even have my ultralight rod configured properly. Well, to make the long story short is, here it is. Now I remember why I sidelined this rod and reel at the end of last season. I realized that if there's a load, okay, on this reel, and I'm pulling in or just doing a cast and retrieve with the lure, I started to get some scratching or hissing type of noise when you're spinning it like that. When there's no load, I mean, it's perfectly fine. It's a very well balanced reel. This is the Casking Mellow 1000, but for some reason this spool started to make noise. I think it's the drag washer, the graphite that's in there, and they started to make all this funky scratching noise, and it was annoying the hell out of me when I'm retrieving. And of course you hear that noise as well, and on my camera when I'm recording. So similarly, I use a 3-pound line, and this particular spool can handle 4-pound, and even with 4-pound line, it can handle up to 330 yards. Okay, that's a lot of lines for 4 pounds. So when I'm doing ultralight type of fishing, I don't necessarily need a lot of line because I'm only casting 10, 15, 20 yards out, and retrieving it. So anyway, that's the reason why I'm gonna go ahead and replace this reel, because one, it's too big. Second, it's got that noise that's annoying the heck out of me. So since I'm an Okuma guy, I went ahead and bought myself an Okuma Ceymar 10. Okay, this is definitely a smaller reel. Okay, and it's made by Okuma. You know me, I purchase a lot of Okuma gear, and I absolutely love them. So let's look at the specs on this Okuma reel. All right, this has 7 bearings. Okay, 7 bearing means, okay, it's going to be smooth. My Okuma bait feeders have 7 bearings as well, and it's ultra smooth. This has 10. This Casking Mela has 10 bearings. But again, those graphite drag washers were making noise, and it shouldn't be making noise. This Okuma Ceymar 10 has these felt drag, and its line capacity are such that at 4 pounds, okay, it can hold 110 yards, and at 2 pounds it can hold 210 yards. Okay, 6 pounds it can hold 70 yards. Okay, so the reason why I bought this, first of all, is smaller, and capacity wise, between 2 pounds and 4 pounds, I like to use 3 pounds. And so 3 pounds, I'm guessing it's probably about 150 yards, something like that. I use this Maxima Ultragreen premium monofillament fishing line. Abrasion wise, this is great. Okay, it's soft and limp, so cast and retrieve is perfect. All right, and being that it's 3 pounds, it's sort of in between. okay, and it's saying that, let's see, 3 pounds, 280 yards for the entire spool. So divide that in half, right? What is that? About 140 yards? 140 yards, that should fill this reel, no problem. And I will still have half of this spool unused, okay? So sometimes you just have to do the math, okay? And sometimes you're also in the cheaps. So, you know, you don't want to have 3/4 of a spool or quarter of a spool. At least use half, okay, of the spool, so you can again load it up, you know, in your next line change. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and first of all show you this Okuma Ceymar. Okay, so I guess you can say that this is almost a open boxing. You know, we've seen those videos where they unbox the product, right? And they show it to you, right? So that's exactly what we're gonna do. Okay, so again, this is 7 bearings. So what that means, a 7 bearing means, okay, 6 ball bearings, okay, that's used, okay, designed into this reel to make it smooth, okay. And then it also has 1 roller bearing, and 1 roller bearing is normally used, okay, where the handle is, okay, because it needs some rigidity there. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up this box for you. And what's in it essentially is just the reel, okay, and some guide, warranty. Okay, let's see. You got your warranty here. You got your, let's see. Oops. I need to rip that. Okay, it's got your diagrams, okay, the different languages. I mean, it's showing here, okay, a whole bunch of ball bearings. See, bearings right there? Those are bearings. So there's 6 of those in this reel. And of course, there's also some parts list. Okay, so just in case you need to buy replacement parts. Okay, so it's good for you to keep this documentation. All right, so that's what's in the box. Okay, so the important parts. Okay, we want the reel. So here's the reel, right? It already has the handle, okay, built in and screwed in. Okay, so the first thing you do is I would tighten that. Okay, and it's great because it's already installed on the correct side. It's got an EVA handle, and it's got one of these, this is typical of Okuma, okay, you can actually fold the handle, okay, for transport. You can get yourself a rubber band and tuck that in. Okay, so you just tighten up this knob here, okay, so you can tighten up your handle. Okay, and it's a very smooth reel. Okay, like I said, it's got the EVA handle, it's got good size on it, feels very beefy. Okay, this handle feels really solid. Okay, typical of Okuma. It's unfortunate that this screw knob here is maybe made of plastic. Okay, so but the important parts are you've got the real seat here. Look at how it tapers out. Okay, so it makes for a really solid, okay, so it's thin here but it's wide there, so torsionally it's really solid. Okay, I mean, there is no flex there whatsoever. Okay, this is a size 10, so it's small. Okay, you know how the reels are, you know, 10, 20, 30. My bait feeder reel for my Okuma rocks is a 30. Okay, so this is a 10, so it's much smaller compared to, okay, let's see, so it's much smaller compared to the 1000. Okay, you can tell that there's size-wise big difference. Okay, it also has thicker bale wire. Okay, really thick. It's got the reverse switch down here. Okay, so it can go both ways. I never really understood why they have that, but for me it's just adjusting, you know, before I cast. If this bale wire's in the wrong place, you know, essentially I just enable that so I can spin it. Otherwise, when it's locked in place, all right, pull that out and then you cast. Okay, it's got a pretty good size drag knob, okay, with a red paint, okay, around there, so for visibility it's great. But the adjustments are pretty good. I mean, you can feel the actual levels of adjustments. Okay, so this is the rotor. See, the rotor itself is notched. Okay, so I'm sure to reduce some weight as well. I mean, it's, you know, it's got a good heft to it. Okay, but essentially it's there's some weight reduction here for the rotor. And then the spool, okay, the spool itself is perforated, okay, again to reduce some weight. And that's, I'm sure, the aluminum, okay, based on the sound. Let's see. Yep, it's definitely aluminum. Okay, so it's smooth. Okay, it may not be as smooth as this. I mean, that's super smooth. Look at that. I mean, it can almost continue. Makes you wonder why I'm replacing it, right? But I'm replacing it based on capacity. Yeah, I don't need to carry that much line, and this is also smaller and, you know, a tad bit lighter. It's a bit more rigid as well. Okay, so first thing I would do is I'm gonna go ahead and remove, there we go, there, just plastic label, and it exposes the actual spool. Okay, there's some lines. It doesn't have the what they call the shark skin for braid ready, so this is not necessarily braid ready. And to install braid line in this, you have to put some tape in order for that braid to stick on the initial installation of your line. But that's not what we're gonna do. We're not gonna go ahead and put braid on this. We're gonna put this Maxima Ultragreen 3-pound. It's a monofillament premium line. Okay, so here we go. So the first thing we're going to do, now this isn't meant to be a instructional on how to install line on your reel, but installing line is quite simple. Don't be afraid to install your own line. You know, there are anglers out there that swear by you need to go to the shop to get it professionally installed, but it's quite simple. Paste the label towards you, okay, and spool. Okay, so you pull out the line. Okay, see, it's a very thin line, you can't barely see it, and that's important when you're casting a lure and your lure is directly attached to your line. You don't want that fish to see your line. Trout's eyes are very, very sharp. Okay, you don't want that trout to see your line. And being that this is monofilament and it's also really soft, it'll just essentially move through that water column without being noticed. And because it's monofilament, it's also good for abrasion. First thing that you would do is I would put one overhand knot. Okay, and that overhand knot is just there. Go ahead and tie it. It's just there to put essentially a knot stop. Okay, and you'll understand why that is so. You can go ahead and cut the tag fairly close to that knot, like that. All right, and take your reel out. Alright. And install the new reel on. Okay. Looks like the reel seat is longer. Okay, on the Okuma compared to the casking. So what that does is, because it's longer, it'll sit more on the rod itself, as well as give a lot more strength and rigidity. Okay, as the rod, okay, and I guess this is the stem. Okay. All right. So, wow, that's really solid. That's cool. So as you can see, that engaged, right? It should have engaged. There we go. See? So as you turn the handle and you have the bail open after the cast, you just need to spin it and it'll go ahead and engage the bail back on. All right. So let's go ahead and move on installing the line. So the first thing you do is you would run your line into the first guide. Okay. Okay. And then open the bail. Okay, now that it's open, you simply need to put an overhand knot around. Put a square knot, and after you've done a square knot, you can go ahead and just Google that, how to do a square knot. Essentially it'll look like a ribbon, and you just pull it. Okay, you cinched it and you pull it and you keep on pulling, rocking it back and forth until the knot stops. Okay, remember that knot that we put initially in the line? When it stops, okay, you're engaged. All you need to do is close the bail and start spooling. Now remember, keep your spool face up, okay, and put your finger up here and put line tension. Put the line tension as you spool it in. Okay? Okay, so we're right about there. Okay, see the line? Let's see, let me open the bail so you can see. See the line? Yep, it's right about a 1/16 of an inch left. Okay, and we don't need to go beyond that. Take your line and anchor it on. Just like that. There we go. And then you can go ahead and snip that. So you're done. So you can see how much I filled it up. Okay, that should be more than enough. Okay, for this type of reel and with the 3-pound line. Anyway, here at the Shadow Cliffs at Pleasanton, California. And it's a bit foggy this morning, so they just planted some Department of Fish and Wildlife trout. These are the smaller trout, and usually it takes a couple, 2-3 days for them to acclimatize. They hanker down, and but I figured, I've got some time, just wanted to wet some bait, so I wanted to go ahead and give it a try. Anyway, I'm gonna show you where my rod is. This one right here is with a par egg and a worm that's casted really close to the dock, because usually the trout, the smaller trout, tends to hang around on the shallows when they're first planted. And then this one is casted a little bit farther out, and I'm using a white and blue power bait in that. I wanted to give that a try. So anyway, yesterday I worked on my Berkley trout dough, and I changed the reel on it with a Okuma Ceymar C10, which is smaller. And I did that because I wanted to put the 3-pound line, and on my Mellow 1000 3-pound line, essentially I can't even take an entire spool. So with this, I only took half of the spool, and I don't need that much yardage, because essentially this type of technique with my ultralight is only for cast and retrieve, and no more than 10-15 yards when I cast and retrieve. So this is more than light enough. It's small, using a 3-pound Maxima line, and it's the monofillament. Later, when it gets really bright, we'll have some action hopefully on the shore. We'll go ahead and use that with a cast and retrieve. So anyway, stay tuned. Nice. Sure. Yep. And no skunk for me today. Wow, this is a big guy. Look at that. Wow. So this guy hit a rooster tail. Look at that. Oh. Drop that. This guy got caught with a brown rooster tail. Look at that. There you go. Caught one. Very nice. Okay guys, so I caught one today using the Berkley Trout Dough rod that I set up yesterday with the Okuma Ceymar 10. And like I said, one of those things that you need to be prepared for. The fish were swimming shallow by the time the sun broke, but they don't want to take anything. They just wanted to chase after lures. So I started out with the rooster tail. That's a rainbow color, and they didn't like that. So when I switched to the brown color, immediately I got a strike. Okay, I only got one, but that's good enough. That's more than enough for my family to eat tonight. So anyway, so that's the name of the game. Make sure that you have the rods and reels that are available for you with respect to different techniques. And if bottom fishing isn't working, keep an eye out for the fish that's actually swimming shallow. And with that, you essentially just bring out your ultralight rod and cast and retrieve. Okay, so that's the lessons learned today. And of course, get your net ready regardless. So as always, come fish with us sometime. See ya.